GM. So today I want to do something a little bit different, okay? If you guys didn't know, recently I hosted a weekly tournament with a cash prize of $2,000, and the winner of this match was Ben of the Hawk. Congratulations to him. And I just wanted to go through the VOD and take a look at the drafting and analyze what, both players could have done better or not, and go from there, okay? Hopefully you guys can find value in my analysis, and I want you guys to pay attention to one thing. This is a tournament setting, okay? And in a tournament setting, your knowledge about your opponent is going to be exponentially higher than if you were to play on ladder, okay? Why is that? It's because you're all going to be in the same room, watching the match, seeing how the opponent draft, and you have, infinite leverage to target ban that player, okay? And so when we look at this tournament, it's going to be a best of 5, and you can see in a tournament setting how, players play in order to get the advantage of the other player or not, all right? And that's what I want you guys to pay attention to. So without further ado, let's jump into the analysis and let's take a look here. So in this analysis, let's take a look at the very first match of, Kofi versus Ben of the Hawk, which is the finals, all right? This is the best of 5. This is the first game. They are going in blind. Nobody knows who's going to be the first pick. And we can see on Kofi's side, he pre-banned Messiah and Bando pre-banned Tiamat. And why is that? It's because when they were playing in the semifinals, they saw each other's draft, and we know that Kofi and Ben are two very different players. One of them is more of a standard player, which is Kofi. He's more of a standard tank player, and Bando is more of an aggro CC player, okay? And that's partially because Bando has the speed. If you're playing aggro, you definitely have the speed, right? Whereas Kofi doesn't really have the speed, and he's just trying to play a bit more standard, and if he can push into aggro, he's going to try that, alright? So we can see that that is what the pre-bans are. And so let's move into the actual pick and ban phase. Now we can see Kofi has the first pick here, and he first picks Sanya. Now, when you first pick Sanya into a cleaver because you know that it's going to be cleave, right? What are you telling your opponent here? First things first, you're telling your opponent two things. Number one, you are prepared to play, the longer game, right? You're telling them, if I survive, I will have a revive, and I can keep on playing. Not only that, you can see that he's also showing that your Sanya is on Gigabyte. And that is also critical, important information for Bando, because looking at this Sanya, you know that this Sanya is going to be on some form of Bloodbath Strive, or if they're trying to be cheesy, which is unlikely because you're going to need that Evil Guard to help you out, it could be on Bulwark, okay? But if you're just going based off whatever information you see on the screen, which is what you will actually need to, get used to, is that this is a Sanya on Gigabyte, which tells you one or two things. One is going to be on Strife, two is definitely going to be on Bloodbath with some Evil Guards shenanigans, or if they're trying to be cheesy, it's going to be Bulwark. And at that point, you have to make a decision on going, do I just play to this as stock standard? Or am I going to, prepare for the worst with this being on Bulwark? And let's see how Bando responds with his next two picks, okay? Because we're going into the next two picks here, and you can see he picks Lilium into another unit, which is Oboe, okay? And now, we see that Lilium and Oboe over here has been picked, right? What does that tell Kofi? Two things. Number one, you have picked Lilium, which means your opponent doesn't have a chance to retaliate with a anti-CC DPS unit, for one. Alright, so this is in a way protecting yourself to be able to go into the CC route. Secondly, he picks Oboe in the second slot, showing that he is potentially moving the draft into CC, or if you counter him in CC, he has the chance to go with his 3-4-5 to pivot out of CC, okay? And that is what picking Lilium Oboe does in this draft. Okay, so let's see what happens with the draft moving forward. Now, very important to note is that Kofi is first pick, which means he has the first chance to pick his Ban Protect unit. What can he do here? When you are playing against someone who is going against CC, what can you do? You can do a couple of things. Number one, you can bulk up, right? Like you can see, you know that Obo is a strip and a, what do you call it? A stun unit, right? What you can do is you can definitely guarantee yourself a cleanser, purifier, whatever you want. On slot 3, for example, you can pick Ling, because Ling's still on the table. You can pick Doki, which is also on the table. Or you can even attempt to race him by putting, your fastest speed unit on 3. That way you can focus on just drafting answers to him without worrying about raising him in speed, because you know he's going to play CC, right? So this is a very, very important juncture for first pickers. Okay, and let's see how Kofi responds here. He thinks for a bit, right, which is normal, but let's see what he is going to bring moving forward. And so if we speed this up a little bit, we can see he does exactly what I just said. He goes for a DPS on 2 and Doki on 3, completely trying to say, alright, I am not dealing with CC. Let's see how you respond with it. Okay, and you can see that both the Holden and Doki, right? One is on Jackal Guard, the other one is on Codex of Magic, which can also indicate to your opponent that you are playing immunity on both these units. Okay, Holden on Jackal Guard tells me that this guy is either on speed or on Bloodbath, but there is definitely a Bulwark set or matrices on this Jackal Guard, because that's the only reason for you to play Jackal Guard on Holden. If not, you'd probably just go Lighthouse or Artisan, right? Doki, same thing. If you have, Codex of Magic on him, on her, chances are you are also a bit slower. You're playing her a little bit slower, or you're playing her extremely fast with Bulwark. One of the two, depending on how your shells drop. Okay? And that's what it's saying here. And that's how Kofi decided to respond to this CC draft. And we can see immediately on 3, pardon my face, it's blocking me. It's blocking the pick 4-5 on this side here, right? But that's also because my webcam was already there. So we're going to look on the left side here. You can see immediately on 3, Bando completely locks in one stripper of the sword, and that being Heinrich. Okay, so if we move forward, we can take a look here, right? What he picks on 4. So let's pay attention to what he does on 4 here. It is most likely going to be a CC unit, and you can see he locks in the Casio. Okay, and so right here, right here, you can see that we already have a package which is CC, right? You have 2 strippers, 2 CC units. This is strip 1, this is strip 2, and you can also see that we have another thing, another combo, which is CC1 and CC2, right? And so this in itself is already what we call a combo. Alright, it's a combination of units that melts together and works. And so if you were to just look at this draft, you can just take a gander on how the speed tuning is done, if done right. Yeah, Obo and Heinrich are going to definitely be faster than Casio. And if you're having this combination of these 3, you would have already made your Heinrich your fastest unit, because you ideally want to start your sequence with Obo going as 3. Okay, so even if Heinrich isn't here, Obo is still faster than Kazuyo, right? Because you need to have the strip into the sleep. And so that is already a very, very powerful combo in these 3 units. Now let's see what happens here with Kofi responding in pick 4-5. Now your 4-5 is supposed to be there to make sure you force a ban on one of those units so that you can get your first 3 units at least. Because your first 3 units should be able to answer their units too. you can see that Kofi went for the Ninfornio. He hasn't locked it in yet. He locks it in. He goes for the Ninfornio. And for his last pick, he definitely needs, like some form of damage. And he goes with the Hou-Yan. Okay? Now, this is important here. And why is that? I want you guys to pay attention to this. Okay? So, first things first, we already have Doki over here, right? To answer CC. She's supposed to answer all these. Right? We have a DPS over here. And this DPS is meant to do a few things. The first and most important thing that it's trying to do is to answer these units when it gets, touched. So if Heinrich S3s, right, he's going to counterattack back with an S1. High likelihood that's going to happen. Because if you have watched my videos, I say build him to about 3500 and he will have an 84% chance of proccing and countering, right? Doing that, you can see that this draft entirely is squishy. There is no heals, there is no sustain, which means 1 or 2 proper procs on Holden and you're done, right? The team will crumble. But the question is whether he gets there. And so he is now doing what I like to call a supplementary unit in the form of Ninfornio, trying to protect himself with immunity by the off chance that Heinrich misses his strip. Okay, how likely is that going to happen? We don't know. But if you're trying to play to the best of your ability, you will have to find a way to, protect yourself. Do I agree with Ninfornio pick? Only if your Ninfornio is like Omega fast, if it's faster than your Heinrich. That means, your Heinrich has to go through multiple checks here. That means it has to dispel. It has to dispel the immunity first. And if it doesn't dispel the immunity first, then it's not going to land the debuffs. Whether this was going to outspeed or not, that's the gamble he's going to take. Because you know that you must fight Heinrich, no matter what, right? Heinrich is your main target that you have to fight here. So, how do we do that? Well, with the combo of this, okay? This in itself is a combo, okay? The idea here that I can see from why Kofi picked Hou-Yan as his last pick is because if any of this whiffs, right? Any of the debuff whiffs and does not sleep, stun, or any of that debilitating CC on Hou-Yan when she, goes down to 0, she can instantly wipe someone and bring someone back. Okay? Because the combo that you can see here, I don't know if you guys can see it, is this. We have 2 revives. Okay? These are your 2 revivers. And so, when you have 2 revivers like this, okay, it puts pressure on your opponent, telling your opponent you need to watch out how you play this game. Because if you mess up one or the other, I'm going to get a unit back and I'm going to trade for you. I'm going to trade with you. Okay? That is the combo he is going for. Moreover, you can see that Ban has 1 more pick ready. And with this team, the only real DPS he has here is Lilium. Besides that, he's only trying to win here through dots, attack down, and those kind of stuff, right? And so, picking Hou-Yan here tells you a few things. Number 1, Hou-Yan over here protects you on this board here. That means if he is going to pick some sort of AoE damage dealer to try to, burst your team down, it's going to be a Yelly, right? This has to be a Yelly. And the reason why it has to be Yelly is because Messiah is pre-banned, right? He has limited his options, his DPS options to 1 unit, to 1 AoE unit so that he can, tunnel into a Hou-Yan last pick. And that is very, very important here that you guys need to pay attention to. So we can see how this is going to play out, right? He is anticipating the Yelly and Ban of the Hawk picks the Yelly as well. And you can see that. Now, moving into the post-ban phase, you can see that Ban of the Hawk bans out the Sanya right? Completely wipes the Sanya off the board, right? Gets rid of this. And now if you just look at the team, just like this, right? They just 4. You have to bank on 2 things. Number 1, your Doki being super fast. Because if your Doki doesn't go faster than this Heinrich is going to cuck Doki. Because Doki can't get the backup on her. Therefore, all your units are going to get CC, right? And so this is now a race between these two, really. Okay. So what does what does Kofi do here? What does he ban out? He takes a while to think here, and eventually he will ban a unit, and that unit is going to be the Lilium. All right. So let's pause here. You can see that this is banned. This is banned. All right. And why did we ban like this? Now, you know that your last 2 picks needs to always be your force ban, right? This is always your force ban here. Ban out the Hawk bans out the Sanya and not the Hoyan. Probably because he knows how to play around this Hoyan. Okay? How do you play around the Hoyan? You just make sure you can CC her when you kill her. Right? Which means he's also taking a massive gamble on outspeeding the Doki. Right here. Okay? Why did Kofi ban out the Lilium? In my honest opinion, this was the wrong ban. This was the wrong ban here. Okay? Kofi had 2 options. Number 1, he can get rid of this or get rid of this. Right? In my opinion, he should have gotten rid of one of these and fight, the Lilium plus the Yeli. Because if you force damage onto them without the Hoyan ban, they have to watch out for the Hoyan. If you miss your timing or sequence properly, you will lose. You will lose. Okay? And that is the most important part here. So let's take a look at how this match is going to play out, and let's go from there. So we go into the fight. Now they are going to take some time to think about their sequence, but you can clearly see that the Heinrich outsped the Doki by a fantastic amount, right? That means he's already lost this battle, and exactly what I said here, where the Holden will counter-attack into the Heinrich. And now the Doki gets to move. But the Doki doesn't push enough. He does not push enough because the Holden and the Hoyan were a bit too slow to cut the oboe right here. However, like I said, if he were to ban the oboe to fight the Lilium, he would have had a much easier time fighting this team comp, because this oboe is not going to do this and stun everybody, whereas the Kazuyo is going to, sleep everyone, granted. But then now it puts the Yeli in a very awkward position. It puts the Heinrich in a very awkward position because everybody is going to wake up. And he can only really kill one of the 2, right? And he's probably going to have to focus down the Hoyan, which leaves your Holden, free to roam and just kill people that way. Okay? But instead, he decides to fight all of this, and now he just gets, fucking CC comboed to death because you couldn't get the backup stacks on the Doki Doki. And that is why it is super, super scary to play against a unit like a team comp like this without a plan. Alright? Now I'm gonna backtrack a little bit here. Okay? And I want you to pay attention to this. Look at the turn meter bar. Alright? The turn meter bar shows, I don't know if you guys can see it, but because I'm playing it on a media player, you can see, let's go forward a little bit more. Okay, you can see the first rotation is done. Right. Oh, doesn't matter. And so now you can see the oboe is going to stun again. The Kazuya is going to go because they're all on codex, so they have 2 rounds of doing this to you, which is fine. But you can see that the speed tuning here is actually pretty nice at the moment. The Yelly is now forced to not press S3 with the revelation and only press S1, as we can see here, right? But that doesn't matter because he's going to go through this a second time around. Alright, another stun. And now he's going to press the S1. And this is the important part here. At this point in time, if you look at the speed tuning, earlier on, if we go back a little bit, I don't know if we can see, right? We can see from the first on the first part here, Hoyan moves before Yelly. But because he is stun locked and the Kazuya is still in play, the Kazuya was able to push the Hoyan back, making the Yelly have the perfect speed tuning to stop Hoyan. Alright? And that is why I said you should be banning, you know, a unit a unit like what's her name? Like Obo. Because if Obo doesn't stun, right, and Kazuya is just sleeping, this Yelly is almost impossible for this Yelly to press S3. Impossible, right? And there is going to be one turn where you're able to actually, you know, press S3 on your Hoyan into the Lilium and potentially just killing that Lilium outright. Okay? And even if you do not, you're going to get rid of the Yelly, which is most of the pressure, while your Holden is still roaming free, putting attack down on Lilium, not making her be able to kill, and your Holden is just gonna, you know, constantly kill these units because that Kazuya is now under pressure, trying to keep this Hoyan in check. Does that make sense? And so you can see here, right? Now, everything is going to stun. I think we already seen this part here. Oh, that's too much. Yeah, that's too much. Let me see if I can speed speed this up to 1.5 times so that we can move faster onto the bar. And so this happens. And you can see this is still the perfect speed tuning that I was talking about. But once this rotation moves on, okay, you can still see that the Hoyan is in front of the Yelly. But because the Hoyan is in front of the Yelly, the Kazuya pushback over here ruined everything. Okay, because now the Hoyan is stunned. So this Yelly is now free to just press S3, proc Hoyan can't do anything, and then it's just game over at this point. Right? And so that is the first game that we are that we can take a look here. Next is going to be we're going to game 2. Game 2. Now, game 2, you can see that things has changed now, right? Kofi is now banning the Heinrich, and Tiamat is still banned on Ban of the Hawk side. Okay? He's just not letting Ban of the Hawk have Tiamat because it's number 1, a damage share unit. Number 2, this Hoyan hits really, really hard into non-bloodbath units, and so that is why it is banned. So let's take a look at how the draft plays out. So Kofi has first pick again, right? Because he lost. So now this time he first picks Lingluo, okay? And Ban of the Hawk responds with a first pick Lily Obo. Okay? What is this doing? This is saying that I can now play CC, I can now play aggro. Okay? Because now he has a speed threat in the form of, you know, Lily, right? Speed threat in the form of Lily, and a CC unit that he can just easily pivot. Because in pick 3, he can no longer pick Heinrich, right? So that means he is now open with the Messiah to play. And so let's see what Kofi does. Kofi takes up the Lilium to protect himself from CC, but changes his mind and goes into Holden Doki. Alright? Why did he do that? I have no clue. If I was him, I would have definitely picked the Lilium on 2, right? And on 3, I would have picked a Messiah. And why is that? It's because the last time you pre-banned a Messiah, he did not have the chance to do it. But now, when you open up Messiah to him, he immediately goes into a Lily here, hinting that he wants to play some form of, you know, Messiah game, right? And so we go into game, we move on, and we can definitely see what happens here, right? You have opened up Messiah because it's no longer pre-banned, and he now picks Messiah on 3, protecting the Messiah, which means two things. Number one, you already have a speed threat here. You now have Messiah over here. And if we look on further, right, on pick 4, he goes Tsukiyomi. Now, you are in a freaking spot, aren't you? Because now we have an attack buffer, a speed up buffer, a push, and now you have to play either into a CC or into a guaranteed Messiah cleave. Right? No matter how tanky you are not surviving a Messiah cleave if you are stunned and you're getting, you know, cooldown reset on Messiah, meaning Messiah is going to S3 twice. Right? You are just going to lose. And so it doesn't matter if you third pick Doki over here. If you can't outspeed either of this, which is a tall ask, right? Considering that Doki is only, you know, 120 speed, and Suki is already 2 speed faster. I'm just talking about base speed here. And Lily is 7 speed faster than Doki. Your odds of outspeeding them is already pretty slim to begin with, right? So how does Kofi respond here? In pick 4-5. And he goes into a Viper, it's a Sanya. Okay? Now, just by looking at this draft, this draft is trying to play extremely tanky to survive the first wave of Messiah. Okay? But we know that it is quite unlikely that you are going to survive this. Because if this is tuned right, I would assume, if I'm looking at a drop like this raw, Tsukiyomi is going to go first before the Lily. Because Suki is going to push the Messiah, right? Messiah is going to S3. Then the Suki is going to push the Messiah back up again, okay, into an oboe stun, right? And then this Suki is going to, you know, cool this down or push him up again to use the S2. Then the Lily is going to move again and just, you know, reset Messiah while you're all stunned, and the Messiah is going to move before you even move. And then you're going to get cleaved twice. Doesn't matter if you have this, doesn't matter if you have this, alright? Doesn't matter if you have this, doesn't matter if you have this, you are just dead, alright? Even if you have a Viper here to protect yourself, chances are 3 of your units are going down. You are putting a lot of tax on Sanya, okay? And so it gets even worse because now you have the entire combination of, you know, this. Everyone knows this combo, right? Suki Bail into Messiah. This is a sick ass combo because if you do it right, it's going to be Suki into S3 Messiah, Messiah S3s, straight into Beyonce S2, pushing Messiah to get another turn, cooling him down by 2, and he can just S3 again. And you eat double S3 on your first turn, you are just fucking dead. Alright? Doesn't matter what you say, you are just dead. Alright? And you can see what happens here immediately. Right? We see that the Tsukiyomi is banned and the Holden is banned. Right? So there's no more damage coming out from this side here. Oops, I'm going to delete that. And so we can see what happens here. Right? Pushes into the oboe. Oboe stuns. And now it doesn't really matter what you do because now he's going to get attack up, crit rate up. Even if this Doki moves, there's not much you can really do here because your tuning is already off thanks to the Gigabyte, right? And so now you can see this is the first move of Messiah. Messiah hits the S3. And with the crit damage up, attack up, you're just dead. Dude, you're just dead. Okay? And so that is what happens when you just let Cleave run wild. So I'm gonna stop here, and I will make a part 2 on continuing on this, because the next 2 matches is also, you know, something that is worth talking about. But what do you get from understanding this? Alright? First and foremost, what I want you guys to remember here is, if you pre-ban a unit because you are in a tournament, you know what their units are. If you pre-ban a unit and you've seen how they play, you should be also stealing their units, because you need to put them under pressure, right? That means your roster needs to be relatively big, which I know Kofi does, alright? And so, in the first game, when you saw that he went Lilium Oboe with the Messiah pre-ban, he could have very easily stolen the Heinrich, forcing Bando to go down a different route into more of an aggro hybrid, right? And you could have just, you know, not pick Heinrich on 3. You don't have to. You just want to get that Heinrich out of the way and play on. That is the first thing that you could have done. The second thing that you need to do is, if you go into the next match and you pre-ban the Heinrich, you have now let Messiah loose, which was your first pre-ban. You have to have a plan on using that Messiah some way or another. Okay? Knowing that you have first pick already gives you the massive advantage, because he is never going to pick Messiah on 2, because you can just ban it. He's going to pick it on 3. You get the third pick first. You should have picked Messiah. Does that make sense? And so that is what I wanted to talk to you guys about. And hopefully you found a little bit of value on how to draft in a tournament setting. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Catch you guys in the next one.